Hi, friends. Bob Bordone here, and welcome back. So, the last few months, I've been focusing on negotiation in the news, and in particular on things like international politics, diplomacy, entertainment news, sports news. Today, I'm going to stay focused on the news, but it's going to be really local. And that's because tomorrow, February 7th, is my dog Rosie's ninth birthday. And that is very big news. So today, I'm going to share with you 9 negotiation lessons that I learned from my dog Rosie and that are actually research backed and useful for you. Let's go. Okay, so lesson 1 from Rosie is focus on interests, not positions. So, for background, a position is what someone says they want in a negotiation. Like they might say, I want $1 million, or I want an office with a window, or I want to be president of the United States. The interest is the underlying need, concern, goal, or desire that's really driving that particular position. So here's what I have learned from Rosie. Because whenever I open up any kind of food, some chicken, a piece of cheese, some ice cream or whipped cream, who comes running over but Rosie the dog? Her position is she actually wants the whipped cream or the chicken or the cheese. But here's what I learned, and here's what she shows me, that you can sit there and eat your chicken and cheese and then give her a little treat for dogs. And she's entirely happy for that because the position is I want the chicken, but the interest is I want a little food. I want a little treat. It's less about the chicken or the cheese. Focus on interests, not positions. So let's bring that lesson from Rosie back to the examples I said earlier. If I say something like, I want an office with a window, maybe my interest is I want prestige, or maybe my interest is I want natural light. There are all sorts of ways to find prestige, like a fancy title or an embossed business card, that are not just getting an office with a window. So, focusing on interests is a way to create value in negotiation. Focusing on positions is a way to get yourself stuck. Lesson number 2 is invest in relationships. So, great negotiators know that it's always important to build rapport. And my dog, Rosie, who is a golden retriever, is the master at this. Whenever the doorbell rings, she comes running to the door to greet the person, tail wagging. And as soon as the person says hello, she then runs and actually brings her favorite toy to that person. So, this for me is just a great example of extending hospitality and building a relationship and even giving a little gift. And great negotiators invest that time building the relationship before they move into the deals. So, translating Rosie's toy bringing to real life, it might mean before you start that negotiation, remembering that your counterparty's son had a soccer game and asking about it. Or remembering maybe that they had a mother who was in for surgery and asking how she's doing. Taking that moment to get personal and curious about the other person has big dividends in negotiation. Lesson number 3 from Rosie: be persistent, but not insistent. In other words, be effectively assertive. So, one of the great things that I have learned about Rosie is that when she wants something, she will show a patience, but without being rude. Take, for example, when I'm at dinner. Sometimes she will sit next to me throughout the entire dinner, indicating that she would really like a little bit of a treat. But what she doesn't do is bark. What she doesn't do is paw me. What she doesn't do is drool all over me. But she sits there patiently in a way that says, I have the resolve to wait this out and get what I need. And really good negotiators are equally persistent. Let me give you an example that literally resolved today. A few months ago, I had a remodel on my bathroom, and I received a part from the Kohler supply store that was broken, forcing an extra $250 charge from the plumber. Immediately after, I reached out to Kohler and asked them to reimburse me that money. And over the next several months, I would follow up over and over again. And they kept on saying, oh, we'll get back to you, or oh, it's delayed, or stick with us. But they never got back to me. And so yesterday, I wrote another time, somewhat in a persistent but effectively assertive way. And I woke up this morning to the news that the $250 is coming back to me. Persistence and effective assertion matters. Okay, lesson number 4 from Rosie is be emotionally intuitive and a good listener. There is something about dogs, and most of us who have a dog know this. They can just read our minds. When we are in a good mood, they come to us with the tail wagging, and when we're feeling sad, they can kind of cuddle up or almost look sad with us. And Rosie is so good at this. In her 9 years, she has just come to really know exactly how I'm feeling. She can give me comfort when I'm sad. She will come and cuddle me. She'll paw me at the right moment. Really good negotiators are similar insofar as they can read the room, and in particular, can, through really good deep listening, reflect back the feeling that they see coming in the other person. And research has shown that really good listeners are more likely to attain better outcomes for themselves because in listening, we understand what's important to our counterparty. And when we understand what's important to them, it helps us frame choices that make it easier for them to say yes. Tip number 5 from Rosie is show appreciation. In the book Beyond Reason by the late Roger Fisher and my colleague Dan Shapiro, they identify 5 core human needs, and one of them is appreciation. And my dog Rosie is incredibly good at showing appreciation. In fact, when I give her a pig's ear, she literally runs around the house squealing and then will come to me and start licking and even will give me a hug with both of her paws. So really great negotiators are always looking for opportunities to express appreciation. Imagine, for example, that you're working with a colleague who has just done an incredibly good job. You can move on to the next job, or you can take the effort to say, thank you, I really appreciate you, I really see you. And that effort meets this core emotional interest that all of us have. Tip number 6 from Rosie is pay attention to body language and signal with body language. Rosie, as I said earlier, is very attentive to the emotional feeling that someone might have, but she's also really attentive to body language. And I notice this all the time when I am walking with her. If somebody who's approaching seems interested in her, she will go up and actually approach that other person. Sometimes she'll even sit there. On the other hand, when we're walking down the street and she can tell bizarrely that someone is afraid of her, she just keeps walking. If anything, sometimes she'll actually walk to the other side so as not to scare that person. So really good negotiators are paying attention to similar kinds of micro cues that someone across the negotiation table might be giving. The other thing they do, and that Rosie does really well, is that they mirror or reflect the emotions that they're seeing back. And so this is called mirroring or modeling. So that if you actually see someone who has an open stance, responding with an open stance helps build the kind of rapport and the kind of openness that you need to have successful negotiations. Number 7 is a great lesson from Rosie and a universal negotiation lesson. And it's this: don't be wholly trusting, but be wholly trustworthy. That is loyalty. Say what you mean and mean what you say is different from being wholly trusting of the other person. And one of the key lessons that I have learned from Rosie is that she is fiercely loyal, but she's fiercely loyal to those who have shown an interest and a care and a concern for her. So, Goldens are known to be these super friendly dogs, and Rosie certainly is, but she can really tell the difference between someone who really likes her and cares for her and somebody who's kind of just passing by. And in fact, in the days when I was single, Rosie was super helpful in helping me discern, is this person on the other side worth a second date or not? Because when they were very warm and open to her, she would respond in kind. And when they weren't, she was kind of indifferent. So in negotiation, you never want to do something untrustworthy, but you don't want to just automatically trust the other person. Don't be wholly trusting, be wholly trustworthy. Lesson number 8 from Rosie is be well rested. Just from a brain science perspective, negotiators who are well rested are able to think more creatively at the negotiation table, and they avoid the downside of making analytical errors because of their exhaustion. And Rosie the dog is nothing if she is not well rested. This is a dog that basically sleeps 16 hours a day. So before you're going into an important negotiation, take that time to get really good sleep so that you are as sharp as you can be at the negotiation table. So the 9th and final lesson from Rosie the dog is be forgiving. What it means is if you have been in a negotiation where perhaps the other side has acted in untrustworthy ways, maybe they've lied, maybe they haven't been good faith, and then they apologize and actually demonstrate to you that they want to change their ways. Don't hold a grudge. Actually be forward-looking and forgiving. So this is exactly how Rosie is. There have been times, for example, when I have stepped on her tail or stepped on her paw, actually have even tripped over the dog. But what's amazing about Rosie is she might jump, she might bark for a second, but as soon as I apologize, we are back to being besties. In research done by Robert Axelrod at the University of Michigan, he has shown that one of the core best characteristics of a negotiator is to be forgiving when the other side wants to move to cooperation. So this is really research taken from iterative prisoner's dilemma or game theory. That sounds maybe really boring and we don't need to get into it right now. At a practical level, though, what it means is all of us are human. Your colleague sometimes is going to mess up. Your best friend or family member sometimes might betray you. But for long-term good working relationships, relationships that help us create value in negotiation, having that capacity to forgive and be forward-looking is not only essential, but it helps us get really great deals. For more negotiation lessons, even ones that don't have quite as much cuteness as this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel and buy my new book, Conflict Resilience. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Ready? Want to be a better negotiator? Watch this next video.